and the S&D rapporteur is also absent, but I know we have someone to represent.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you too to Mr. Cofferati, who has invested an enormous amount of effort in this, but unfortunately he is prevented from attending the meeting today and has asked me to represent him. Therefore, I too, as coordinator for the S&D, will accept the proposal to postpone this, as this is such a sensitive file, and I think our decision on this has to be very carefully prepared. Therefore, we will be able to agree as well to that proposal to postpone. Mr. Cofferati has noted down some points for me on the most important aspects of this proposal for us in the S&D. First of all, the marking of essential components. It is very important that we ensure traceability. Therefore, the essential components, not just individual components, need to be correspondingly marked. As regards the signal and alarm weapons, salute weapons, they should remain in the corresponding categories. In other words, the categories that they belonged to before they were changed. But for the alarm and signal weapons, they ought to be put in category C after they have been changed. And then the question of the health checks. This is a very controversial issue. We've discussed it here in this committee as well. And our group feels that before someone acquires the right to use a weapon, they certainly should have a fitness or a health check. Of course, member states' individual health systems and rules for this vary enormously, and I think it should be left up to the member states' authorities to decide whether there should be continuous monitoring or not of the suitability of the person health-wise. That should be left up to the member state according to their own cultures and traditions. As regards museums and collectors, there I think we have a lot of flexibility on museums because of the cultural and historic aspects that are bound up with this, and the possibility of ensuring that the necessary safety measures are taken. But that doesn't apply to collectors. We don't have a uniform definition of what a collector is in the EU, and therefore we want to treat collectors just like any other person that couldn't be described as a collector. And on distance sales, we support what the Commission has proposed, that is, that distance sales of weapons can only be done through registered dealers and traders. We're more flexible when it comes to ammunition. The sale of weapons doesn't happen as frequently as the sale of ammunition. Sportsmen and hunters regularly make such purchases, and therefore we need to have a differentiated approach. And we ask member states to establish rules for the safe storage of weapons and ammunition, and above all to ensure that weapons and ammunition are kept separately from one another to reduce the danger that unauthorized persons can actually use them. That's a very important point for us. As regards categories A6 and A7, this is one of the most important points. We're in favour of category 6, including automatic firearms which have been converted into semi-automatic firearms, because it might be possible for this type of weapon to be converted back into a fully automatic weapon. For that reason, we should classify those weapons in A6 or leave them in A6. As regards category A7, there we propose that we shouldn't judge the weapons on the basis of dangerousness as the Commission does, but on the basis of technical aspects that would correspond to potential danger. And we should combine those technical aspects with other proposals that have been made, in particular exceptions for the national defence and security. I'm thinking of the Finnish problem here that we need to address. Or for sports shooting organisations. Sorry, I'm mixing up my languages here. And we also propose transition periods or transitional solutions for everything concerning transposition and implementation for A6 and A7. So we think we should leave enough time for these changes to be made so that you don't find sportsmen finding themselves in a legal position overnight just because they haven't had time to apply for the right authorization. That's a very important point. And finally, can I state, as the Commission regularly says, we are not trying to annoy sportsmen or hunters. We're not trying to get at their weapons, their firearms. They are in other categories that we are not changing. It's a question of addressing the really dangerous weapons that might be in circulation. Once again, Kalashnikovs, but they're not the only ones. You know, military weapons ought not to fall into the wrong hands, because those are the most dangerous weapons, and those are the ones we're trying to deal with. Thank you.
Grazie onorevole